Hello, welcome to another episode of Undercurrent. I'm Deanna Cooney, your host. I hope you've had a fantastic week. We're kicking off this week's episode with a conversation Tibor had with Francis Bertola, an advocate for personal land title. And they discussed the mortgage reforms that have taken place, the increased rate of home repossession occurring in Perth, and the massive impact this has on the families.
You are an advocate for land title awareness. We know that in Perth last year, more than 1,200 homes being repossessed by the sheriff. And the last one of this year happens tragically this Monday, on the 21st of January. And one person committed suicide and another is still in hospital recovery.
Yeah, well, Tibor, over my long dealings with mortgage matters, and this goes back to when I lost my properties in the Landmark deal, that I've become aware that one of the most important things to do is to check registrations that are attached to your title. With consultation with other people, are aware of what the situation is with mortgages, that I went to Land's Titles office and I drew down relevant documents relating to the Crofts property in Martin. And what I did find was that there was a property sale and seizure order actually registered. It was to the sum of $11,000 granted by a Supreme Court judgment debt in 2016.
So the $11,000 or so, which is currently on the property registered for Rodney Croft,
Yes.
is the one which is on the title document. And this is the one which they're owing to the National Trust,
Yes.
or this is the legal firm's cost?
Yes. The National Trust is the registered power sale, and it is only registered on Mr. Rodney Croft, not on the joint tenant, his joint tenant wife.
So usually, if you go and repossess a property which is two owners jointly own, and you got an order against only one, how can the sheriff claim that for an $11 plus claim is valid for claiming a $1 million property?
Well, quite obviously, the sheriff has only, and I will say that a property seizure order which is 16 months over its expiry date, it has a 12-month expiry date, and it is already 16 months over its expiry date. He has acted on that $11,000 property seizure order against Mr. Croft. He has not got a property seizure order against Mrs. Croft. So for the sheriff to say that he's coming to repossess the property, he has attempted to repossess a property of somebody who has no orders against her and is now deceased.
So why the media is reporting that the sheriff got a valid seizure order when it's not registered against the property, so the sheriff is definitely not have more than what's on the property, which is just one person, one owner of the property, and not the other tenants. So why don't the people know about it? And where the media has got the information on the $1 million? Who feeds the media?
Who's feeding the media? I would say the parties, and there is another party involved in here, another institution which may have created a facility. If a whole contingent of police turn up, if a whole contingent of medical paramedics turn up, and if a contingent of fire turn up, it becomes a media circus. So somebody's feeding the media circus, and ultimately the sheriff's paperwork is defective. So ultimately, it must lay the blame of all this, or the consequences, all lay at the sheriff's feet.
We got quiet, bright sheriffs who are just going in on anyway because they got a piece of paper in hand and they're flagging the piece of paper and thinking that people are not going to defend their own home.
Well, I'll add to that, Tibor, and it was played out there at the Martin seizure, was that a secondary event is created. They then invoke, oh, he had a firearm. That brings the TRG, it brings the police, and I've been to numerous sheriff seizures, and the sheriff, if there are more than the owner there, the sheriff immediately calls the police come and attend, and they endeavour to create a secondary offence, i.e. alleged public disturbance. And I've experienced it myself. I've been called all sorts. I've had my firearms. I was called into the same situation, that I am a person of unstable mind and so on and so forth.
Seems to me is a mental case is a person who are not ready to defend his property. That's a mental case. Who is defending her or his property rightly against something which is not right. They are not mentally ill, they are mentally very right, and the people, the sheriff and the authorities are mentally ill.
Absolutely. Land's title gives you right to defend your title with whatever force you feel necessary, but the sheriff comes, we think the sheriff's right, or we are led to believe the sheriff's right. He is then backed by the police.
What do you think, Frank? How many legal or not so legal property seizures for this year in Perth?
I would say 95% of property seizures are improper.
And how many are we going to get this year in 2019?
1,235, I think, is something like that. Last year and the previous year there were 945, and I would variably believe in the economic circumstances we face now, that figure will double. And people must check their titles to see if there is a valid property seizure and sale order registered before they leave their property.
Up next, Tegan brings you this week's Vox Pop, where she speaks with the people of Perth and gets their opinions on the Australia Day Change the Date debate.
Hey, it's Tegan. I'm here to hit the streets today to ask people if they think the date of Australia Day should change or if it should stay the same. Let's see what they had to say.
I think the date should stay the same, but the name should be changed.
Oh, okay. What do you think the name should be changed to?
Reconciliation Day or something like that.
Interesting, yeah. And so, but why do you also think the date should stay the same?
To allow for the tradition that it is Australia Day, but just acknowledging that maybe it wasn't the greatest day for Aboriginals. That's all.
Alrighty, so what do you think about Australia Day, and do you think the date should change?
Yes. Yep, definitely.
What date do you think it should change to? Any particular one, or just a different date?
7th or 8th of May, there's a date that where Australian Parliament first sat. That would be a good date, or maybe the standard rail gauge, the date that came into place.
And we had someone before that said it should stay the same date but change to Reconciliation Day. Do you think that would be a good idea or no?
I'd separate the two issues, and you can certainly have both. All makes sense.
Reconciliation Day should be the 13th of February.
I don't think the date should change at all. No, it's in Australia Day. It's it's the same as everyone. You should be able to celebrate the country and what we know. I do have a lot of feelings about the change, the name Invasion Day and stuff, as that denotes a conquered people. And I don't think the Aboriginals were ready to, or either are willing to accept being a conquered people, or would consider themselves that. So I think Invasion Day, changing of date, all the rest of it is not right.
No, I think it's fine. It should be on the 26th. I'm happy with that.
So you don't think it's an issue or anything, like it needs to be dealt with?
No, I don't think so. No.
Any explanation why? Just don't think.
No, well, why should it change? It's just always been there, and it's just, I don't think it should be changed.
Well, are they going to change the name of Australia too? So why would you, if you change it to some other day, it's like, well, what exactly are you celebrating? You're celebrating Australia. You know, it's discovery, it's people, it's, you know, it's history, everything about it, the history that we know of. But and that's what it's known as, is Australia. So why would you call it something else?
I still think it's the Australia Day represents different things to different people, but I think whether you change the name, I don't know, because Australia, it's a great place. I mean, I come from Canada and I've been here for 25 years, and I think it's pretty good. I'm not sure what you change it to. It still represents, I think it's a day itself that you're celebrating, whether you call it Australia Day or something else, unless you have that kind of, you address the issue that that divides people, I suppose, or that's offensive to the Indigenous Australians.
Thanks for watching. This has been Tegan for Undercurrent.
Don't go too far away. We're taking a short break, so grab a cuppa and head right back.